morning. You're listening to Insurance Matchmaking, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance. And now, sharing his knowledge, here's your host, Matt Libby.
All right, good morning and welcome back to Insurance Matchmaking. And I have a guest again this week. You've heard me talk about BNI, and I have our current chapter president, Patty Seagrave. She is with Seagrave Mortgage, and I was her predecessor as a chapter president. I don't think I'd mentioned that here on the show before, but Patty's done a far better job than I have, so I'll give her props on that. But we're coming up on the end of the term, which, in the beginning you're kind of excited. Hey, let's see what we can do, and then it's kind of like, oh, wow, it's almost over. Is it bittersweet, Patty?
It is bittersweet. Of course, I was the first, the 10th, and now I've been the 20th president of our group. So I love BNI, and it has been great. I've loved the people I've met, the people whose businesses I've watched develop and grow. But it's time to turn it over to someone else. And I think next week you're having the next president on.
Yep,
so
we're going to have the next president on the next show. So.
Got a continuum here.
Yep, I think I gave her the chapter with 22 members, and we're now at 35. So she's done a little bit better job on growth, and that's been great. And but we just want to kind of get into some of the ways that we can help. And I know, Patty, your group does a lot of give back projects locally, and you support the military, which of course is near and dear to my heart, being a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And,
mine too, with my son in the Navy.
Yeah. So, and he's in Okinawa?
He's in Okinawa. Well, actually, he's moving to Sasebo right now, which is over nearby.
So just another island. Now, is that island considered part of Okinawa or considered part of Japan?
I believe it's part of Japan, but I am not up on my area there.
I know Okinawa. It's always kind of one of those things. It's like, it's technically Japan, but then again, it's not. It's kind of like a Commonwealth or something like that. Kind of like Canada used to be or the U.S. Virgin Islands are, and Guam. They're part of America, but they're not states or something like that.
Exactly. So all I know is he loves it over there. He is having a great time.
Well, we're going to kind of get into some things. As I was telling Patty before we got started here, is we just kind of let the conversation lead us down the way, and at the end we go, oh wow, we ran out of time and we didn't talk about this and didn't talk about that. As you know, the name of my show is Insurance Matchmaking, and now Patty, as I mentioned, has Seagrave Mortgage. She does mortgage loans, and so we're both in the kind of what classified in BNI as the financial services, but we also, we kind of, not to say overlap. I overlap with the other insurance agents a lot of times. If somebody is an insurance agent, they probably have a life insurance license, whether they're doing health or whether they're doing home and auto. But Patty, you run into some insurance things also in the mortgage world. Is that a good statement?
We do run into insurance. Of course, everybody needs homeowners insurance, so that's the main thing you think about. But a lot of times, most of the loans that we do, or a lot of the loans we do, have something called mortgage insurance. And mortgage insurance sometimes is a bad word in the mortgage business, but It's basically what allows you to buy a home with less than 20% down, because a lot of people feel like you have to have 20% down, and you don't. But I think there's a lot of confusion about what mortgage insurance covers and what it does, because we have so many people that will sit there and they will say, well, I'm glad I have the mortgage insurance because if something happens to my spouse, I want to make sure the house is paid for. And that's not what mortgage insurance covers. Exactly. Yeah. That would be something that I would send them to you to cover, because that's mortgage disability insurance.
Right. Or sometimes also referred to as mortgage protection. And your mortgage insurance is really more insurance of the loan, kind of a guarantee, or that you will make the payments sort of thing, isn't it?
Right. It kind of protects the lender.
Right.
So somewhere along the way, the powers that be decided that 20% was that magic number that you are less likely to default if you have 20% in the house. So what they did is they came out with an insurance premium that you pay monthly as part of your payment, and it basically protects the lender in case of default on the loan, but it allows you to buy a house with less than 20% down.
Now, the lender in that situation, do they get what would have been the down payment so that they're not as big a loss when they foreclose on that? Or how does that work?
Right. There would be a mortgage insurance claim that's filed, and all of that kind of happens behind the scenes there.
But it doesn't pay off the loan.
No, not for the customer. No, it just it's more protection for the lender.
Okay. So I know sometimes when there's foreclosures and things like that, or you go to the bank and they got a vehicle they I don't see it as much now. I used to see, these vehicles sitting in the bank parking lot with a for sale sign on it. But the problem was the bank wanted the loan paid off, and of course the person was upside down in their loan, so it's not who wants to buy it because it's not a deal. So it sits on there on the bank lot. So I guess that kind of helps. The mortgage insurance kind of helps them not being that quite upside down with trying to find a new buyer to purchase that mortgage.
And it makes them more willing to loan with less down payment.
With less down payment. Now, does that come into play? Certain credit levels will play into whether they can get that mortgage insurance or not?
The amount of mortgage insurance is going to be determined based on the loan type. Some of your government loans have just a set amount on there, whereas if you're doing just a straight conventional loan, it's going to be very dependent, the amount, on what your credit score is and how much down payment you have. And the more down payment you have, the less the mortgage insurance will be.
Now, and we mentioned the mortgage disability, mortgage protection insurance. Whenever you do any kind of loan, you're going to get tons of mail. Even if you do what we call a HELOC, that home equity that maybe you do through your bank, which is something that you don't do the home equities. You do.
Correct. We're strictly a residential mortgage lender, so we're looking for that long-term fixed rate mortgage.
Right. So you may work with your bank and think, well, I'm not getting a mortgage. I'm just getting a loan on the equity of my home. It still gets registered as a real estate transaction. So your name hits the list and you get tons of mail. And it looks like it's coming from your bank a lot of times. And, important information you need on your loan I'm not going to say bank names now. I'm not giving them free plugs. But you call the number, you're going to talk to an insurance agent. And I'm not saying the people sending these out, they're paying for these lists. I'm not saying they're not legitimate insurance agents, but you can also get into scams. And that's why my pitch is, and Patty and I talk about a lot of times during B&I, we don't let friends call 1-800 numbers. Give us a call. Mortgage protection insurance is basically, it's life insurance is what it is. It's life insurance that will help either pay off your mortgage. There are some that are payment protection. So it's what we call a decreasing term. You're taking it out for the amount of payments, and so it will continue the payments until you refinance the home or cancel the insurance, replace the insurance or something like that. So the downside of those policies are it might help make the house payment, but it doesn't do anything to secure your family for the future. It just helps on that mortgage. And sometimes, depending on what company you're going with, those could actually be more expensive than a traditional life insurance plan. So it makes sense to do those. Now, I know, and I mentioned about, friends don't let friends call 800 numbers. And one of my favorite expressions, as I say, is don't call Joe. Our good friend Joe Namath and others that do these Medicare commercials and say, call and get all your benefits. You're probably missing out. Call this number to the Medicare service line. It's like, it's not Medicare. It's not the government. Medicare doesn't call you. But I know also, I'm sure Patty deals with this a lot, and it's kind of it's the same thing with people. I had somebody that contacted me. They wanted rates for a Medicare supplement, and the rates are the rates. I generally don't sell the lowest plan out there, not because I want to get more commission. There's reasons why some of those plans are the lower monthly rates. So we all represent the same plans. It's like, if you just want rates, call the company, go online and search. If you want to be educated on and get service and make sure you have the right plan, that's where somebody like me comes in. And I know, Patty, you'll get the ones that are like, what's the interest rate? What's the lowest interest rate right now? And it's like, well, it depends.
It does depend on so many factors, because it depends on the loan type, it depends on the credit score, it depends on the down payment. So all of that is going to impact it. Even the loan amount can make a difference on the interest rate. And it is so hard when people call and say, what is your rate? Because there's so many other things we need to know to answer that. Just like if you're getting an insurance policy, there's some background you need to know. And a lot of times, I'm sure this happens to you, we have people call and they say, I need to get an FHA loan. And I'm usually like, well, why do you think that's the best loan for you? Because that's the importance of having someone local that you can talk to, is go in, meet with them, or call them and just have that conversation so we can get to know you. I'm sure you're the same way, and figure out what is the best plan. And, mortgages are hard.
Yeah.
They have changed so much since the crisis back in the early 2000s. And it is on the lender now to make sure we're not putting you in a bad loan. So that means there's a lot more regulations, a lot more requirements, and you're going to be spending a long time, 30 days or so with your lender. It needs to be someone you like and that you can talk to if there's a problem.
Right. And understanding that local market is such a big deal. I had a lady recently in my office. She's been on disability. So one of the things happens when you're on Social Security disability, after 24 months, you're automatically eligible for Medicare. Well, she's had some serious health issues, but now she has Medicare, so she wants to get a Medicare supplement because there's no networks. The downside is with a Medicare supplement, if you're under 65, they're very expensive. The companies have to accept her, but she's like, I don't want a Medicare Advantage, because I don't want to be blocked out from network. But generally, I'll recommend those under 65 that yes, you can have some network limitations, and you may have to deal with some other hoops to jump through, for like pre-authorization, things like that. You won't have to with original Medicare and a Medicare supplement. But the great news is Medicare supplement plans, they are underwritten. You do have to medically qualify for them. But when you're brand new to Medicare, which is usually when you turn 65, but when you're brand new, you get that what's called the Part B of your Medicare. You have 6 months that any Medicare supplement plan has to take you. They have to treat you as your perfect health. You get the preferred rate, all that. Even smokers get the non-smoker rate in that first 6 months. In Tennessee anyway, it may be different in other states. But when you turn 65, you get a do-over. So you could pick that Medicare Advantage and not have that high premium. And then when you're 65, you can relook at doing the Medicare supplement and then having that for the rest of your life. So it's not because a lot of times people talk about, well, if you don't do your Medicare supplement when you're first eligible for Medicare, you can never get it if you have, health problems. Well, that's not exactly true. So again, that's that knowing that local market, figuring out there is a plan out there that she can have a zero premium. Her oncologist is in network. The hospital she had her surgery at is in network. But, yes, she'll have co-pays, but she's got a maximum out-of-pocket cap because she's not currently having treatments now. So it's something hopefully that, maybe she'll, it's going to help her out financially. But
knowing who to talk to.
Being
able to talk to someone is so important. And not getting stuck in the voicemail cycle and, punch 2 for this, 3 for this, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so nice. And to know where you're located if you need to go in the office and just do a face-to-face sometimes.
Right. All right. Well, believe it or not, we're coming up on that first commercial break. It probably seemed like we've been here for only 5 minutes, and we're halfway through the show here. So we'll be right back after these commercials.
This is Emily Gibson, your local Twin Lakes security sales consultant. Mark your calendars. You're invited to the Twin Lakes annual meeting of members on October 7th at 2 p.m. Join us at Jackson County Middle School as we recap the past year and prepare for the next. Registration runs from noon to 2 p.m. and don't forget to bring your ID. There will be great door prizes and gifts. You will not want to miss this event. You may learn more at twinlakes.net or by calling 1-800-644-8582.
As we age, our bodies naturally decondition. Having a local, hometown provider to offer items for medical necessity and safety is a huge benefit for many people. Quality Home Health offers programs to assist with vestibular training and can provide you an in-home evaluation for additional needs. Nakai also offers many retail items. During the month of September, all Guardian Alert products are available at 20% off. Visit thequalityfamily.com for additional information and on all the family has to offer you.
And now, back to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby Insurance.
All right, we're back. As I mentioned earlier, I have our BNI president, Patty Seagrave of Seagrave Mortgage, in with me today. And we've been just talking about that, keeping things local. And one of the things we joke about, because when we have a business opens up a new, one of our members, maybe they've just did a new location or it's a new business, and they do that ribbon cutting with the Chamber of Commerce, and a bunch of us show up and people joke about, oh, here comes the BNI Mafia. And we have one example. I thought it was kind of neat. and actually I probably should have saved this for Beth Stone next week because she can comment on it too, was one of our members who recently got married, and so because he got married was buying a new house. And how many BNI members got involved in that transaction? I know you were one of them.
I believe there was like 11 because we had the realtor that did the sale, we had the insurance company, we had the mortgage company, and we had the esthetician, I think, did some stuff with her for the wedding.
Oh, for the wedding, okay.
Right. I'm trying to think through everybody. The title
company. You had the title,
did
you had the home
closing.
inspection.
Home inspection, forgot that. We didn't have a pest inspector at the time, but if we did, they would have been involved in it. And, I mean, it just goes from there to there to there.
Well, that's what kind of happened with me. I moved here, as I've mentioned before. I've been in Cookeville, actually over 3 years now, believe it. It just doesn't seem like it's been that long. But
official Cookvillian.
Yep. But I was in a Knoxville chapter of BNI, so I kind of did the same thing, didn't know Patty then, but I did my mortgage through a member of my old chapter. Had a home inspector that did that. Had to have some things done at my house in Oak Ridge. So I got the handyman from the group that took care of a couple things there. That chapter had a garage door person, and I needed some work done on the garage door. And the realtor in the group did handle the sale of my home, and then put me in contact with somebody here in Cookeville that kind of got started there. Now, they weren't in BNI. I still kind of use my BNI connections to do that. I pitch that out here every once in a while, on the show. If you've got a business, and I know Patty is because we comment and like on each other's posts on the website, the Facebook group Hip Cookeville. A lot of people say, I'm looking for somebody that a realtor for a first-time home buyer. And of course, the first thing I do on that is I tag Patty, because they don't need a realtor if they're a first-time home buyer. They need a mortgage person before they start talking to the realtor.
Let's figure out if they can purchase or if their particular loan has any restrictions on it, so they know going into it, because I hate for people to fall in love with a house that won't work for their particular loan.
That was the thing. My first-time home buying experience was I felt almost the realtor was pushing us above my comfort. I didn't think this was in my price range because they did. And at the time, I didn't have a loan officer first, but they went ahead. The real estate agent went ahead and kind of checked and had a good idea of my debt-to-income ratio, and then we started looking at houses. But as you said, I kind of had to step back and go, I like this one, and it has a garage, but it was at the either right at my upper limit or just out of my limit. And so I ended up buying, my little starter home that didn't have a garage.
And that's okay, because it was your starter home, because so many people go into it thinking this is my 30-year home. And very rarely is that the case. Statistically, I believe this is still true, that the average person is going to refinance or sell within 7 years.
Yeah.
And my background's in credit counseling. I did credit counseling 10 years before I started doing mortgages. So I think I probably take a little more conservative approach. And I meet with people all the time and say, what do we do if life happens? Because life does happen. Bad things happen to good people. And let's look at, are you going to be house poor? Do we want to live after we purchase this house? Yep. So let's do something that you're comfortable with. A lot of times, I had a lady in my office yesterday, and their income is getting ready to change. It's going to be a huge increase for them. So we talked about the house payment that she's looking at, which was triple what their rent is. And I said, let's set that aside in the bank for about 3 months. Let's see if you're really comfortable doing that. And then if you are, you'll know that that's in your price range. If not, maybe we need to back down a little bit.
And they can use some of that money for their down payment then.
That's exactly right. In the meantime, they've built a down payment, because down payment's always good, right?
Helps bring down that rate, right?
Sometimes.
Or at least the total you're paying out, because a good old compound interest on a mortgage, the more you can put down, the less surprisingly how much less you'll actually pay for your home.
It is. But then sometimes the 100% loans come in with a little better rate than with down payment.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dilemma that we're in these days.
Well, I was fortunate able to do that because I was able to use the VA loan to purchase my home here we were able to take our time with getting the other home ready. It wasn't us buying a house was not contingent on selling the other house. In fact, we were here for practically a year before we actually sold the other house. So,
and VA is such a good loan. One of the fallacies out there that I'll just throw out is a lot of our military veterans feel like they can only use that loan once, and you can actually repeatedly use that loan. And if they have any type of service-connected disability, all the funding fees are waived. So VA is a fantastic loan.
Right.
Of course,
Yeah.
we already talked about we both love our veterans, but
yeah, in fact, this one was my third time. The first one was that starter home, and we still actually had that house. I was at Fort Campbell, went to Germany, rented. Houses at that time were staying on the market for a good 6 months before they moved, and we're like, I can't afford to keep making house payments for 6 months trying to sell that, and I got to try to figure out to get an apartment or something overseas, paying down deposits and all that. So put it on and had a real estate rental manager. So kept that house rented the whole time. Well, we came back. Now, not my current wife, but my ex-wife at that time was like, I don't want to live in that house again. So we ended up purchasing another home, and we were still able to use our VA benefits, but we ended up having to put some more money down because we still had my loan eligibility. I had some of my loan eligibility in the first home. And so we bought the other house, and then when we split, we just kind of traded houses. She moved into, well, heck, that's a whole long other story.
so she ended up in the house she didn't want to live in?
Right. And my daughter now owns that house. So that house has been in the family since it was brand new.
Wow.
We bought it. We were first-time home buyers, new construction, and my daughter is still living there with her children in Clarksville. So yeah, that house has been not a homestead, but it's it's kind of in a lot of ways the only home my daughter's known. I mean, we bought that house. She was like 18 months old. We had just come back from Italy, and then we were in that house till we went to Germany for 3 years, and then I guess we were in the other house in Clarksville when she was in her early teens. She was back in that house. So
Now, did you sell her the house, or do you still own the house?
the ex and I, we did quitclaim deeds on the two houses.
Okay.
And then her mother sold her the house.
Gotcha. Because we do that a lot. We see that a lot in this area where parents or even children are selling to the parents, or parents selling to the children, or a niece or a nephew. And we can do what's called a gift of equity, which takes care of the down payment.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what procedure that was. That was a few years after, we'd been split. She'd remarried. And so, she wasn't living there anymore because I think she put it back in the rental market, and then my daughter needed somewhere to live, and she maybe was even renting it to her at first and then ended up selling it to her, and so she's the one making the mortgage on it now. Of course, she doesn't get the VA benefit. She had to do it conventional.
Right. That's one unusual thing about VA. It's the only loan that you can have like unmarried co-borrowers on. Only the veteran can purchase, and we can only use their income unless they are legally married, and then we can use the spouse. So that's an interesting little twist on a VA loan.
So, yep. So that comes in there. I started to say a little bit ago, business owners, if you want to get publicity, I know, a lot of times, hey, if you're looking for a painter, you're looking for a handyman, give me a call. That's where we put out the pitches. Hey, come visit us at BNI. We meet every Thursday at Nick's from 11:30 to 1, have lunch. We'll even buy you lunch. So let us know. But if you want more information on that, you can go to my Insurance Matchmaking website. There is a spot there where you can ask a question for the show, or have a question. But you can submit your answer there or get to my email. Patty, what's the best way for people to find you?
PattySeagrave.com has all of my contact information. You can apply there for a mortgage. You can get all of our phone numbers to call, answer a few questions. There's a few little calculators, good things like that. Little video introduces me, and always they can email, call, come by, and we're happy to answer any mortgage-related questions we can. Even if they're not mortgage-related, we'll try to make something up for them, right?
Right.
Well,
yeah. Now, you said they can go ahead and apply for their mortgage right there at pattyseagrave.com. And now, is there also documentation they may need to upload? Are the upload links right there? Or is that something you have to send? It's right there on that website.
Yeah. If COVID taught us anything, it taught us that we can do everything online. I don't love that because I'm a very people person. I love to meet my customers. But even this week, I showed up at a closing. I'd never met the borrower. They were from out of state. We did everything online. They drove in to close on the house, and I met them there for the first time. But we had talked a lot.
Yeah.
And so you can do everything online. You can upload your documents. You can sign. Everything's electronic now. And it's a one-stop secure site that you can go to.
Yeah, it comes in handy. I mean, we've got things like that. People can do, they can run their own life insurance quotes. They can actually run their own Medicare quotes. They can put the information in. I can give them a link to do it. Sometimes, though, it's company specific, so I don't usually put those out too much. I want to have, like you said, I want to have a little more input
Well, it's
on
like
what
the mortgage
they're doing.
calculators. They have a generic a generic tax and insurance in there, a generic rate. So the mortgage calculators, they'll give you an idea, but they're not the best thing. We have people come in all the time and say, I ran this mortgage calculator, here's what I can afford, but they didn't take into account things that we have to take into account, or maybe there's income we can include, just different things. So it's always good to be able to talk to somebody.
Right. Well, one of the things I run into, especially on the prescription drug plans with Medicare, is they can range from $7.50 a month to, like $180.
That's a pretty big difference.
It's a big difference. And so why would I pay $180 when I can get this one because maybe your drug is not covered. And I got a text from a client this week. It's like, my Xarelto was $45 and now it's, $147. I was like, and pharmacist said I probably in the donut hole. And I said, yep, sounds like you're in the donut hole. And that's what kind of a running joke for me, as I always tell my clients, or even when I do my Medicare seminars, if you see your prescription drugs advertised on TV, expect to hit the donut hole. And because it's due to the price of the drugs. It's officially called the coverage gap. I'm not a big fan of the moniker donut hole, but a lot of people, that's what they know, so we use it because it's common verbiage. But I stress that whenever you're looking at a Part D drug plan for your Medicare, is don't pick your drug plan based on the monthly premium, because a lower premium could end up costing you several hundred to a couple $1,000s more a year.
And see, a prime example of what you just said, I'm not familiar with the donut hole or the moniker plan. Insurance is something I know nothing about, so I need to talk to somebody who knows something about it,
right,
that can put that in layman's terms for me, just like a mortgage. Let's lay out what all this looks like and, what do these terms mean? Because if you're not in the industry every day, you don't know this.
Yeah. And a lot of times people don't realize I don't charge for my services. I mean, it's kind of like you basically don't either. If they don't do a mortgage with, they end up going somewhere.
Exactly.
Sometimes you do all the legwork and then again they go get the mortgage from somebody else, and that happens to me with the insurance also. And there's no charge for my service. I get paid by the insurance company, and yes, there is a temptation of I need you to sign up for this one because they're going to pay me more. But I fight that urge very strongly to make sure you get the plan that works for you, because I want you to keep the plan. I want you to protect you. I want you to protect your family. And those are the things that I want to make sure you're doing. So even if you don't do, but the only thing I say is don't save me time by, you explained everything so well, I just called the company and signed up. No, I'm not going to say thank you to that, because now I just work for free and you don't have me as an agent either. So it's like, it's a lose-lose when you do that.
And it doesn't cost any more to go through you.
It doesn't cost, yeah. And the premium's the premium. It's like they don't cut out my commission by, it's like people do houses, they want to do for sale by owner because they don't want to pay the real estate commission. But the insurance doesn't work that way. The premium is the premium. Yes, we get a commission on it, but it isn't how, it doesn't affect what they're going to pay for that plan. So it looks like we're running out of time. Any quick message you'd like to put in before we run out?
Thank you for having us. And like you say, friends don't let friends call 1-800 numbers.
All right. You heard it right here. Check in next week, Insurance Matchmaking, and we'll see you then.
You've been listening to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance.